I was just reading this web novel, only a few chapters in, when I saw the villain had the same name as me. I couldn't help but vent a little. Next thing I know, bam, I'm here, perfectly lucid, totally transported. Does that even make sense? Couldn't you have at least let me finish the story before throwing me into it? Now how am I supposed to outsmart the main character and hijack his role? Fine. I guess I just have to lay low. Good thing I inherited all the original owner's memories, so I'm not completely in the dark. The villain, Ethan Stone, my exact namesake, was a real jerk, a reckless, privileged heir. His dad was a high elder, and his mom was a division head in the Brotherhood of Lumina. Basically, I could walk around like I owned the place. Over the years, the original me, this villain, had done some pretty terrible things, all thanks to my parents' influence. Luckily, I was still young, and the Brotherhood's rules had kept me from committing the truly unforgivable acts. I tried to recall everything, then let out a sigh of relief. I hadn't even met the main character yet. Everything was still salvageable. But then, as I thought back, I remembered a major problem. Right now, I was tormenting some poor girl. I quickly looked toward the stream. There was a girl there, trying to bathe a wolf that was even taller than her. This beast, Ash, was my spirit animal. It looked fierce, and the girl was trembling, moving with extreme caution. Knowing the original me's typical rotten behavior, I would have secretly signaled Ash to scare her until she cried. "Hey," I called out. The girl's small frame visibly flinched. She looked over, her eyes filled with fear and a hint of pleading. I inwardly cursed the original owner for being such a scumbag. How could anyone? Ugh. I actually did feel like punching her and making her cry. I shook my head, chasing away that awful thought. "That's enough," I said. Hearing that, the girl quickly moved to shore. I whistled, and Ash bounded out of the water. When it shook itself dry, it completely drenched her. I hadn't expected that. I quickly walked over. "Sorry about that," I apologized, patting Ash's big head. "And no, it's fine." She was clearly terrified, afraid to even meet my gaze. She hugged herself, shaking her head like a bobblehead. "What's your name?" I asked, curious. She hesitated, then mumbled, "Ashley Winters." I blinked. Seriously? Does that delicate name even suit her timid demeanor? Whatever. As long as she's not the main heroine, it's all good. Ashley Winters was soaked, her clothes clinging to her, revealing her figure. She didn't seem to notice, just stood there obediently, afraid to move. "Here's your payment for bathing my spirit animal." I pulled out a spirit stone and a jacket from my dimension pouch and offered them to her. A single spirit stone was no small sum. It was a junior initiate's monthly stipend. Even senior initiates only got around 5 a month. "Oh, no, you don't have to. It's my duty." Ashley waved her hands, refusing. "Take it." I glared immediately. I was trying to turn over a new leaf, and this was my first step. Ashley flinched again, then carefully took the spirit stone and the jacket. I finally nodded, satisfied. "You can go now." "Thank you, senior initiate, thank you." Ashley bowed repeatedly, then turned and scurried away. She didn't dare to run, fearing it would displease me, and put on the jacket as she walked. I watched her wet figure retreat, thinking, wow, she's tiny, but she's got a lot going on there front and back. Smack! I slapped myself. I'm such a pervert. She's probably only 14 or 15. But wait, 14 or 15 with a figure like that. Smack! I slapped myself again. Back in her living quarters, Ashley Winters finally collapsed to the floor, her legs weak. I was so scared. She gasped, trying to catch her breath. That was Ethan Stone, the one people said would slap even stray puppies. She'd always tried to avoid him, so why'd she let her guard down and run into him this time? He was just as overbearing, arrogant, and unreasonable as the rumors claimed. But he didn't seem as bad. Meanwhile, elsewhere, I rode Ash, wandering around. All the junior initiates and most of the senior initiates I past-bowed respectfully. I figured I didn't need to worry too much about that. People's impressions don't change overnight. It takes time. As long as I toned down my behavior from now on, everything would be fine. I noticed a crowd gathered in the plaza ahead. From Ash's back, I had a good vantage point and could see a man and a woman in the center. "Brandon, if you keep this up, we can't even be casual friends." Sarah Jenkins frowned, looking at Brandon Reed. Brandon stood there, stunning. Everyone thought he was heartbroken from Sarah's rejection. In reality, he was utterly stunned. He had been reborn, sent back to this very day when he confessed his feelings to Sarah. In his past life, he naively believed Sarah was truly dedicated to her cultivation, so he'd clung to hope for years. He'd been strung along for what felt like forever. This life he was awake. Sarah Jenkins? He didn't care anymore. He would right the wrongs of his past, saving the girl who was about to be shattered. In his previous life, he'd been too cowardly to act, watching helplessly as that girl ended her own life right before his eyes. This life, he would change everything. Even though he'd brought nothing back from his rebirth, all his cultivation experience was intact. By avoiding past mistakes, he would eventually surpass everyone. Fine, then we won't be friends. Brandon made his decision, nodded, and then turned to leave with an indifferent expression. Seeing this, not only the people around, but even Sarah Jenkins herself was stunned. There was one exception, me. I saw it all and understood. Isn't this the classic beginning of a web novel? This kind of intro, I bet a lot of people could guess the general plot. The male lead is reborn, doesn't fawn over the female lead anymore, and that shift make her uncomfortable. Then, using his past life's experience, the male lead becomes excellent and mature in this life, surprising the female lead. She starts feeling unaccustomed to his absence and actively seeks him out. That's the general idea, though there are always plenty of twists and misunderstandings. Eventually, they end up together. I carefully memorized the appearances of the main character and heroine. From now on, I make sure to steer clear of them. After leaving the crowd, Brandon suddenly sped up, rushing towards a specific location. I should make it in time. In his past life, after Sarah rejected him, he'd gone to the outskirts to clear his head and witnessed a girl being bullied. She was forced to bathe a vicious spirit animal, then wash clothes, and finally, for some trumped-up reason, was held underwater and tormented. Back then, he hadn't dared to interfere, only approaching to help after the bullies left. This time, he absolutely wouldn't tolerate it. But when he arrived at the spot, he froze. No one. Brandon was puzzled. It's definitely the right place, but why is no one here? Did I come too early? He wasn't about to give up, so he found a hidden spot and waited. He waited until dark, but the scene from his past life never unfolded. At that moment, he started to question everything. For the next 2 days, I roamed all over the Brotherhood grounds. I wasn't doing anything specific, just strolling around. I practically wanted to tell everyone, see, I'm not bullying anyone anymore. But these past 2 days, I'd been a little confused. I kept feeling strange glances, but whenever I turned my head, I saw nothing. Weird, really weird. Could the main character be watching me? When I felt that faint gaze again, I pretended not to notice. I rode Ash down a narrow path, then let Ash walk slowly while I squatted by the tall grass. A moment later, sure enough, a shadowy figure crept by. When I clearly saw who it was, I froze. As she passed, I leaped out. What are you doing? The girl, startled, let out a yelp, and the bundle of clothes she was carrying fell to the ground. These are my clothes. I bent down to pick up my jacket. Ashley Winters patted her chest, stammering, why yes, I came to return your clothes. I held up the jacket, teasing, so you've been secretly following me for 2 days just to return a jacket? How did you? Ashley's eyes widened, and then her face visibly flushed crimson. She looked down, wanting to bury her head between her small breasts. Her small hands, with nowhere to go, nervously rubbed the corner of her clothes. At that moment, she looked utterly helpless. I'll go now. She quickly snapped out of it. Since the clothes were returned, there was no reason to stay. Wait, I suddenly called out. What is it? Ashley flinched again, wishing she could disappear instantly, but she still turned around, standing there awkwardly. The clothes fell on the ground just now. You need to wash them for me again. I held up the jacket. Oh, right. Ashley was startled at first, then understood and nodded. She thought it made sense, since she'd accidentally dropped the clothes. It was normal to take them back and rewash them. So, she lowered her head and stepped forward, reaching out to take the jacket. Thump! Ow! Ashley suddenly clutched her forehead, taking 2 steps back. She looked up, her eyes misty. That's it. See? When you talk to someone, you look them in the eye. I grinned, snapping my fingers. Ashley, hearing that, lowered her head again. I sighed inwardly, but kept a stern face. It's because you're like this that you get picked on so easily. Ashley looked up for a moment, her wronged expression seeming to say, "You picked on me, and now it's my fault?" Seeing her look, I said, "If I pick on you and you don't resist at all, then I'll definitely keep picking on you next time." Ashley's heart skipped a beat at that. She quickly said, "But with your status, how can I resist?" I paused. She had a point. With my status, who would dare to resist? To be fair, anyone who did dare to resist probably had some backing, and those weren't the kind of people I'd mess with anyway. But could I admit she was right at this moment? Of course not. I put on a serious face. "Well, you can't just look like you're begging to be bullied either." Ashley really wanted to argue. My whole body is screaming, "Don't bully me." But at a time like this, she couldn't talk back. That would be seen as provocation, and she'd be bullied even worse. This was her experience. Seeing her like that, I knew it was hopeless, or at least impossible in the short term. But then, an idea struck me. I grinned. "Do you want to stop being bullied forever?" Ashley actually took a step back at that, finding my smile a little mischievous. "Why don't you hang out with me from now on?" I directly slipped my identity medallion into her hand. "If anyone ever tries to bully you, just show them this. If they think you stole it, tell them there's no way you dare to steal something from me." "This? No." Ashley froze, then quickly snapped out of it, trying to push the medallion back. I wouldn't take it, backing away as I said, "Hold on to it tight. If you break it, you wouldn't be able to pay for it, even if you sold yourself." Ashley's movement stiffened. She truly didn't dare to return it. Seeing this, I immediately ran off. "That's it. Keep it safe, don't lose it. If you do, you'll have to sell yourself to me." Ashley stood rooted to the spot, dazed. She couldn't decide whether to chase me or not. The medallion in her hand felt like a hot potato. How can someone be so overbearing and unreasonable? She carefully put the identity medallion into her small dimension pouch. She had to find a chance to return it. She had a strong suspicion that I genuinely hoped she'd lose it. 2 days later, Brandon Reed looked for Ashley Winters whenever he had a spare moment. Today, he finally found her. From a distance, she was hanging her head dejectedly, while Ethan Stone was gesticulating wildly. Though he couldn't hear what was being said, he was sure Ethan was spewing foul insults. "Stop right there." This time, he didn't hold back. He rushed over and shielded Ashley behind him. I was just planning to go tease Ashley a bit, but then I found someone had already gotten there first. A few girls were surrounding her, verbally abusing her. I couldn't stand that. I walked right up and kicked each one of them. Then I pulled Ashley aside and, practically shaking my head in frustration, called her a dummy, asking why she hadn't used her identity medallion. Then Brandon Reed suddenly showed up, startling me. Brandon said coldly, "Ethan Stone, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a good background." I frowned. "What's it to you?" Even though I was trying to avoid the main characters and wasn't throwing my weight around anymore, I wasn't a coward. Not even for the supposed main character. Brandon scoffed. "Bullying her, what kind of skill is that? If you're so brave, why don't we spar during next month's annual trials?" With his past life combat experience and mastery of various spells, he no longer feared this spoiled brat. I was bullying her. I paused, then realized, thinking back to the scene just now, it certainly looked like I was bullying her. At the same time, I considered another possibility. Many web novel protagonists don't just have one love interest. They have a main heroine and several secondary ones. Was Ashley Winters one of them? I looked at her, wanting to gauge her reaction. If she showed joy or gratitude because of Brandon's appearance, then she might really be a secondary heroine. If she acted that way, I'd just leave. After all, I wasn't really bullying her. If she felt relieved just because someone else showed up, why would I bother trying to help her? Brandon noticed my gaze and immediately turned to Ashley. "Don't be afraid. I'm here today. No one will bully you." He felt amazing right now. Not being able to play hero for the past 2 days had made him restless. Now, finally, his chance had come. "My girl," he thought, "lean on me. It's not your business." He wasn't bullying me. Ashley spoke up. Her voice was quiet, but it had more firmness than usual. Brandon's face immediately stiffened. Then he understood. She must be worried about retaliation later, so she was acting this way. Or maybe she's worried about dragging me down. Brandon felt he'd found the truth, so he said with conviction, "You don't need to be scared. I know who he is, but I'm not afraid." And you shouldn't be either, understand? Ashley frowned slightly. Thank you, she said. Hearing that, I turned to leave. At the same time, I sighed inwardly. The main character's charm was terrifying. A few words, and he could win a girl's favor. But I hadn't gone far when I heard Ashley's next sentence. But he really wasn't bullying me. Please don't hold ill will towards him because of a misunderstanding, Ashley said, then walked around Brandon, chasing after me as I walked away. Brandon stood there, dumbfounded, as if his worldview had been shattered. How is this possible? It can't be. He recovered, then immediately turned, watching our two retreating figures. Did I arrive too late? Had she already found someone else? No, I didn't slow down, letting the pitter-patter of her footsteps catch up behind me. I'm sorry. Hearing her voice, I stopped and turned around. Why are you saying sorry? I asked. Ashley said softly, I didn't use your identity medallion. I snorted. Do you think I'm still mad about that? Ashley paused, then tilted her head slightly, looking at the ground in confusion. Aren't you? I seized the opportunity, flicking her forehead. When she looked up, rubbing her forehead, I said, Why did you thank that guy just now? Huh? Ashley blinked, rubbing her forehead, her mind clearly struggling to process. That guy might have misunderstood, but he was trying to be helpful. Saying thank you wasn't a problem, right? So, what is he angry about? She looked up to gauge my expression, met my gaze, then like a startled rabbit, immediately looked away. I grumbled, What do you mean, huh? I've helped you so much, and you never say thank you. Ashley blinked again, a sudden realization dawning in her eyes. Seeing her cute, clumsy expression, I couldn't help but chuckle. I didn't feel like bothering her anymore. Let's go, I said, turning to leave. Thank you, Ashley suddenly said. I turned back again. How are you going to thank me? Ashley froze again. What do I mean, how? Wasn't a simple thank you enough? How about this? I said, whistling to Ash. When the wolf came over, I turned to Ashley. Help me take care of Ash for a few days. If he gets dirty or hungry, just take him to the stream to bathe and catch some fish. That's it. I finished, giving her no chance to refuse, and quickly walked away. Hey, Ashley only just processed it and wanted to chase after me, but then she realized Ash wasn't following. She was once again caught in a dilemma. Chase or not chase? What she left Ash, and he got hurt or hurt someone else? It would surely fall on her. Can you go back by yourself? She asked Ash cautiously, keeping a bit of distance. Ash, however, completely ignored her, even looking around with its head held high, not even glancing at her. Ashley suddenly felt a pang of frustration. What am I supposed to do? Just watch him? After a while, Ashley took a few steps and tentatively said, Ash, come here. Ash finally, reluctantly, got up and walked toward her. Ashley breathed a sigh of relief, preparing to lead the way. The next second, Ash bounded past her. Hey, wait for me. Ashley gasped, quickly chasing after it. Hidden in the shadows, I burst out laughing at the scene. You can hide your identity medallion in your dimension pouch, but you can't exactly hide Ash, can you? I grinned triumphantly. Now, no one will dare to bully her. A few more days passed. Ashley Winters was exhausted. Although no one dared to bully her, Ash was incredibly wild and wouldn't stay put. Every time, she had to exert great effort to keep up, ensuring he wouldn't accidentally hurt anyone. Thankfully, she gradually realized that Ash wasn't bad-tempered, and he wouldn't struggle if she rode him. So for the past 2 days, she'd been riding Ash, not worrying about being unable to keep up. However, while she'd adapted to Ash, she hadn't adapted to the stares from others. She thought and thought, but there was no solution. Not riding wasn't an option, as Ash would run wild. She could only grit her teeth and try to ignore people's gazes. Gradually, she seemed to be getting used to it, until one day, an elegant and beautiful woman blocked her path and asked, Why are you riding Ash? Ashley had never encountered this situation before. Previously, no one had dared to block her way. She quickly dismounted, and fearing Ash would run off, held a tuft of fur on his leg with her small hand. Only then did she explain, It's Ethan asked me to take care of him. Ethan asked you to take care of him? The woman paused slightly, then looked at Ash's reaction and smiled as she asked, What's your name? Ashley Winters. Ashley was about to lower her head, but then remembered someone's words and ultimately didn't. However, she still couldn't meet the woman's gaze, causing her eyes to dart around nervously. Ashley Winters? That doesn't quite fit your demeanor. The woman chuckled. It's fine, I was just asking. Go about your business. With that, she turned and left. Ashley was a little baffled, but she climbed back onto Ash and rode away. Who was she? Why did she call him Ethan so intimately? Melissa Stone arrived in the back garden of the Grand Hall and saw her son lounging in a chair, eating fruit. She immediately walked over and pinched his ear. You little punk. Ow! I cried out in pain, sitting up. Ow, ow. Mom, what are you doing? Melissa glared at me. What am I doing? That's such a nice girl, and you have a nerve to bully her. I immediately realized she was talking about Ashley Winters. I quickly said, I wasn't bullying her. I just didn't want anyone else to bully her. Oh, really? Melissa let go, feigning suspicion. Of course it's true. I rubbed my ear. Fine, Melissa said, turning to leave. I was a little confused. Melissa immediately found her husband and recounted the story. Seriously? David Stone was a little surprised. No one knew his son better than his parents. They also thought their son had a bad temper, but they were too busy and had neglected him. But then again, the Brotherhood encouraged conflict and competition between members. So what if their son was a little wild? Precisely because they knew their son so well, they were somewhat surprised. However, they weren't too astonished, just amazed that their son had finally grown up and learned to be considerate towards pretty girls. Melissa chuckled. Do you think in a few years I'll be holding grandchildren? David wrapped his arms around her, grinning. If you want to hold babies, we can always have another one. You old flirt, get serious. By the stream, Ash was splashing around in the water. On the bank, Ashley Winters sat on a rock with another person beside her. Didn't people say Ethan Stone was arrogant and reckless? Sarah Jenkins was astonished to hear Ashley's story. They knew each other, having joined the Brotherhood at the same time, but they had different mentors and lived on different peaks. This chance encounter led to them sharing their recent experiences. Ashley said, "It must be a misunderstanding." She remembered how Ethan had scolded her for not using her identity medallion, and how that strange man had misunderstood. She figured his old bad reputation must have come from similar situations. That's pretty good. Sarah nodded, unconsciously comparing Brandon Reed and Ethan Stone. Ethan's methods might have been overbearing, but he knew when to push and when to back off, and he wasn't clingy. Brandon, on the other hand, used to be so persistent, completely disregarding her feelings. And then, just because she rejected him, he'd completely cut ties, not even wanting to be friends. Even if Brandon had indeed improved quite a bit recently, mastering many spells almost instantly. So what? This world was never short of geniuses. Hey there. Just then, a voice drifted over, and both girls looked in its direction. I was just bored and wanted to come tease Ashley a bit. Seeing someone else with her, I didn't pay much mind, but when I called out and saw the other person turn around, I was slightly startled. Why is she here? Greetings, Senior Initiate. Sarah Jenkins quickly stood up. This made Ashley Winters pause, thinking. She realized she'd never called me Senior Initiate, nor had I ever called her by name. I gave a slight nod, then turned to Ashley. See how polite she is? Ashley was speechless for a moment. For some reason, she felt a little jealous. I pressed my advantage. Call me Senior Ethan. Let's hear it. Greetings, Senior Ethan. Ashley's voice was very soft. I smiled. Ashley Winters, you're quite sensible. Normally, I'd make her say it louder, but since there was an outsider present, I didn't push her. Sarah Jenkins watched the scene, realizing she was a bit superfluous. She quickly found an excuse and left. Once she was gone, I said, Ashley Winters, did you go complain to my mom? Mom? Ashley Winters finally realized. That elegant and beautiful woman was Ethan Stone's mother. No wonder she called him so intimately. Ah, I see. She quickly said, and no, I didn't. But I glared. If you didn't, then why did my mom give me a beating? Oh gosh, I really didn't. Ashley looked flustered. Really? I eyed her suspiciously. Ashley nodded frantically. I finally nodded. Okay, I believe you. But I can't just take a beating for nothing, can I? Ashley said timidly. So what do you want? I thought for a moment. I want to eat at the gourmet hall. You're paying. The Brotherhood had a common dining hall, which was free for all members, and a gourmet hall, which required merit points or spirit stones. Okay, Ashley felt she was innocent, but couldn't think of a reason to refuse, and even if she had, she wouldn't have dared to speak up. So the two of us walked towards the dining hall, with Ash following behind. Ashley felt a little nervous. She had finally gotten used to Ash, but now there was another person too. At the same time, she completely failed to notice that Ash was being incredibly well-behaved this time, completely different from his usual wild antics. I gloated inwardly. That's right, this was my desensitization plan for her. Over the next few days, the effect was quite significant. Even when I deliberately walked beside her, very close, she didn't make any effort to avoid me. Today, the annual trials began. This was how the Brotherhood encouraged its younger members. Simply signing up to participate guaranteed a reward. The more victories, the greater the reward, with the top 10 receiving truly lavish prizes. Brandon Reed, determined to prove himself, entered the competition and easily won his matches. He walked off the stage expressionlessly, but in reality, he savored the surrounding praise. His gaze swept through the crowd, identifying 3 specific individuals. Sarah Jenkins, regret it, you fool. The man you discarded is so exceptional. Ashley Winters, do you see? I'm truly powerful. That scumbag Ethan Stone, is he bullying my Ashley Winters again? He saw Ethan Stone laughing and saying something to Ashley Winters in the stands, who looked clearly annoyed and turned her face away. Brandon felt an intense pang of anguish, screaming hysterically in his mind. Ashley Winters, if you're really being bullied, just run away. With so many Brotherhood elders here, he wouldn't dare to pull anything. That scumbag Ethan Stone, just wait. You better not let me face you in the upcoming matches, or I'll stomp you into the ground. However, after all the register members had finished their first round, he suddenly realized Ethan Stone hadn't competed. He didn't sign up? How is that possible? In my past life, he definitely participated. He couldn't help but start questioning everything again. Of course, I wasn't going to participate in any competition. I didn't need to prove anything, nor did I lack those paltry rewards. Wouldn't it be better to spend that time building my relationship with Ashley Winters? Question: how do I get her to call me Brother Ethan? Online waiting, it's urgent. This girl doesn't seem as scared of me anymore. In the past, one glare, and she'd quickly change her tune. I started to get cheeky. If you don't call me Brother Ethan, I'm going to bully you. There are so many people here. Ashley mumbled, turning her face away. I chuckled. So you mean you'll call me that when no one's around, right? No way. Ashley clearly got flustered. I decided to quit while I was ahead. This wasn't something to rush, and besides, there really were a lot of people around. Ashley secretly sighed in relief, then discreetly used her cool, small hands to cool her flushed cheeks. The competition continued. Brandon Reed's mind was in turmoil, and he eventually lost to the Brotherhood's recognized prodigy. I saw it happen and thought it was perfectly logical. That's how these web novels usually go. The protagonist first loses to some prodigy, only to easily win when they meet again later, creating a satisfying moment for the reader. A few more days passed. I went to look for Ashley Winters as usual, but after searching half the Brotherhood grounds, I couldn't find her anywhere. This made me a little worried. Just then, I happened to run into Sarah Jenkins. Remembering she and Ashley should know each other, I went up to ask, "Senior Initiate Sarah, do you know where Ashley Winters is?" "No." Sarah shook her head at first, then seemed to remember something. I recall her saying last time that she was going to take on a mission to earn more cultivation resources. "Okay, thanks." I smiled politely, waved, and turned to leave. Sarah Jenkins stood rooted, her thoughts in disarray. She had never doubted her appearance. She was no less beautiful than Ashley Winters, which was confirmed by the stares of others. So she had suspected, and secretly hoped, that Ethan Stone asking about Ashley was just an excuse, that he actually wanted to get closer to and understand her. Now it seems she was wrong. A guy who only had eyes for one girl was truly attractive. A tiny urge to steal him away bloomed within her. I waited in the mission hall for 6 days. Finally, Ashley Winters returned. When she saw me, her eyes showed surprise, but mostly guilt. I sternly asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Ashley lowered her head and explained, "I just wanted my cultivation to catch up to yours." Her voice grew softer and softer until the end was completely inaudible. I reached out and flicked her forehead. When she looked up, rubbing her forehead, I said, I'm not mad you took a mission. I just wish you told me beforehand. Okay. Ashley nodded gently, like a child who had done something wrong. I pulled out a comm globe and slipped it into her hand. From now on, if you don't have time to come find me, you can use the comm globe to contact me. This time, Ashley didn't refuse, holding the comm globe with both hands. Come on, let's go to Arcane Reach. After Ashley submitted her mission, I took her arm and walked out of the Brotherhood grounds. What for? Ashley didn't pull her hand back, just looked puzzled. I said, don't ask. I need your help with something. Hearing that it was something she could help with, Ashley felt even less resistance. She had always wanted to be helpful in some way, especially since she had received so much help. For the past month, she hadn't been bullied at all. Of course, a certain someone's teasing didn't count. We arrived at Arcane Reach right at night. The streets and alleys were brightly lit and very lively. Ashley Winters looked around, wide-eyed. Try this. I picked up a hairpin from a stall and offered it to her. Ashley quickly waved her hands. This is too expensive. I can't take it. I retorted. It's for my mom. I just need you to try it on for me. Oh, right. Ashley, a little flustered, took the hairpin and put it in her hair. I nodded. Looks pretty. Ashley felt a little shy. When he says it's pretty, can't he look at the hairpin instead of me? She quickly took off the hairpin and handed it to the vendor to package. I didn't take it, instead telling her, you hold on to it for me. Then I turned and walked away. We browsed for a long time. I bought a lot of snacks and small trinkets. I couldn't help it. The girl beside me wouldn't accept anything too valuable. Late into the night, we checked into an inn. Since it was a Brotherhood-owned establishment, and considering my status, I simply requested 2 complimentary rooms, so Ashley wouldn't have to pay. This actually made me a little annoyed. The innkeeper was so clueless. My eyes were practically shouting, but he just didn't get it, and immediately arranged 2 separate rooms. It's not like I had any overly nefarious intentions. I just wanted to subtly close the distance between us. Think about it. Even if nothing happened, at least we would have stayed in the same room. Then, holding hands or something would naturally follow, right? The next day, back at the Brotherhood, just as we were about to part ways, Ashley Winters finally remembered something important. She pulled out the hairpin box and said this. But I acted like I suddenly remembered something, slapped my hand, and said, I just remembered. My mom doesn't like this style of hairpin. Ashley paused. She might be timid, but she wasn't stupid. How could she not know what was going on? I didn't think she wouldn't figure it out, but it didn't matter. I said, you can have it. I don't know any other girls, so it's useless to me. I finished, intently watching her reaction. Ashley Winters seemed prepared. She took out an enchanted throwing knife from her dimension pouch, placed it in my hand, and said, then I'll give you this. I was slightly startled. Last night, when I saw her by this small throwing knife, I thought she liked it for herself. I didn't expect it was for this moment. Thanks, I'll treasure it. I chuckled. I wasn't afraid of her returning a gift. I was afraid she'd refuse outright. Goodbye. Ashley Winters, her cheeks flushed, turned and fled, as if escaping. I stood there, watching her go. In a corner not far away, Melissa Stone watched the scene, gritting her teeth. That little rascal. He took so many spirit stones from me, only to buy that girl such a cheap hairpin. David Stone, however, laughed. Didn't I give you a cheap bracelet back then? You acted disgusted, but you've treasured it to this day. He said, taking his wife's hand. A bracelet, though spotless, bore the marks of many years on her wrist. A few days later, I used the excuse of teaching spells to call Ashley Winters to a secluded pavilion. We sat side by side. All right, that's enough for now, I said, suddenly placing my lower leg on her lap. Ashley immediately gently pushed it away. I put it back. She pushed it away again. I didn't insist, leaning back in the chair, lost in thought, wondering when I should take this girl to meet my parents. That step would be difficult. Directly telling her might make her uncomfortable. I needed to arrange some kind of convenient coincidence. As I frowned in thought, a pair of cool, small hands were placed on my head, gently pulling. I thought she just wanted me to rest, so I lay down, only to find my head cradled in her lap. Ashley Winters blushed, gently massaging my temples with both hands, softly saying, it's all my fault for being too clumsy, learning too slowly. She thought I was frowning and thinking because of the spell teaching. My view was completely blocked, so I couldn't see her face at all. Ashley Winters, Sarah Jenkins' voice drifted over. Ashley stopped her movements, but I had no intention of getting up. Sarah Jenkins walked closer from behind, and only then saw the head resting on Ashley Winter's lap. She felt a bit awkward, feeling like she'd interrupted an intimate moment. Normally, she would have left immediately, but for some reason, she still walked over. Senior Ethan, you're here too? I just grunted, not even opening my eyes. Sarah Jenkins maintained a normal expression and started chatting with Ashley Winters. None of the three noticed that from a distant cliffside, someone was watching the scene. Brandon Reed felt like screaming blood. Not only were Ashley Winters and Ethan Stone being intimate, but even Sarah Jenkins seemed to want to be part of it. He didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Is it true that even with rebirth, what's not mine is destined not to be mine? He mumbled to himself. If that were truly the case, he'd rather not have been reborn. Although the result of not being reborn was Ashley Winters' demise. If he couldn't have her, he didn't want Ethan Stone to have her either. But it was too late. He couldn't do anything. Forcibly take her? With his meager past life experience, how long would it take him to surpass Ethan Stone, who lacked no resources? He feared that by then, Ethan would already be settled down with a family. Brandon squatted on the ground, burying his face in his hands, weeping. I accidentally fell asleep, but was woken by a voice that struck directly into my mind. Ding! System loaded, successfully activated. This system is the villain's comeback system, and will assist the host in resisting the male lead, Brandon Reed, and winning the heroine's heart. The system's voice paused, and I was startled. System? What system? Help me win the heroine? What a joke. I was perfectly happy with Ashley Winters. Why would I want Sarah Jenkins? Fighting the main character for a woman was a thankless task, and besides, I wasn't some scumbag who wanted to juggle two relationships. But then the system's voice came again. Compared to its earlier cold tone, this time, it seemed to carry a hint of emotion. Holy crap. Heroine Ashley Winters' affection rating is 100%. Host is awesome. Reward are being distributed. I was dumbfounded. I sat straight up, staring blankly at Ashley Winters. You mean she's the heroine? What's wrong? Ashley Winters hadn't quite caught up, but being stared at like that, her face flushed red again. This time, she didn't look away, just quietly met my gaze. I ignored the rewards the system was distributing, focusing instead on that 100% affection rating. Then, I grabbed Ashley Winters' small hand. She gently pursed her lips, also not pulling away. Brother Ethan, are you okay? By now, it was dusk, and Sarah Jenkins had long since left. Only the two of us remained here. I pulled her into my arms and softly said, Ashley, how about I introduce you to my parents? Okay. Years later, I heard news that Brandon Reed had gained a massive breakthrough in a hidden realm, not only seeing his power level soar, but also acquiring many rare artifacts and resources. I couldn't care less. The system had already given me everything I needed based on Ashley Winters' affection rating. The rewards included cultivation, divine weapons, and incredible abilities. Everything. The only thing that annoyed me was the system saying Sarah Jenkins was also one of the heroines, and her affection rating for me was 72%. Even though I always acted indifferently towards her, she still frequently came to visit Ashley Winters. Was she really just visiting Ashley Winters? I couldn't help but notice. One time, my mom said, actually, it's quite normal for a man to have multiple partners. I said, then why don't you let Dad marry another one? Then I got a severe beating. Hilarious. She says it, then gets mad when I suggest it. For me, having Ashley Winters was enough.